Hey Trevor, welcome back to the podcast, my friend. How are you doing? It's been a busy and interesting week, and a couple things are happening. One of them is I just got my ballot to vote the Proposition 50, and at the same time, we're going through the government shutdown. So I think that kind of brings us to a couple of interesting conversations, and I want to leave it as that and lead it from there. What do you think?
Absolutely, man. Good to hear from you. We got a lot to talk about. The government shutdown. Yeah, Proposition 50, hot button topics. I'll tell you what, I have a somewhat of a neutral or a modest view when it comes to the government shutdown. I don't have a neutral or a modest view when it comes to Prop 50, but I'll let you take it away. Which one do you want to start with? And we'll just go from there.
Yeah, okay. I want to start with the Proposition 50 and to give a little bit of background, right? Uh,
Yes.
I see Proposition 50 as a defensive measure. I don't think this is something that California and our governor was actually, and I know this because reading to the background context, this was not a California intentional measure. And what is this measure? Proposition 50 measure is to redistrict the California um, ahead of its time. It was supposed to be every 10 years, and I don't believe it was going to happen in about another 5 years or so. Don't quote me on that. But by doing that gerrymandering, it redistricts Southern California to allow to have additional congressmen of one party or the other one. Now we can both agree or disagree on what gerrymandering really does. But
Hmm.
what upsets me is that in reality, this is a defensive response to the redistricting in Texas, right? Where they basically, the governor just decided to enact a new congressional map to favor the Republicans. They flat out said it. They literally said it. And basically, all they're trying to do is trying to get more Republicans into Congress so they can have more power. There was no conversation about trying to make it more equitable or listening to the people's voice more. It is literally designed just to get more Republican congressmen, uh, in the House. And so, what the Proposition 50 is designed to play, level the playing field, right? By leveraging what the Democratic districts that we can have in California and send the equal amount of Democrats to the House so we can level the field. And so I see it as a movement to ensure that our voice is being heard in Congress and not this illegal move of just trying to put more Republicans in the House, regardless of who is voting. And that's how I see it, right? And of course, I want to have a little information that I'm going to put in here based on what I can see online, so you guys can see what I'm seeing.
Hmm.
Um, you know, so I say I vote for it. I vote for yes. It's unfortunate. I don't think there would be a real need to vote for it if Texas and other Republican red states wouldn't be trying to do this, and this is coming out of a whim of a president that is basically demanding to have more power, federal power, without keeping our core values, which is our voice, right? It's our vote. So that's my 2 cents there.
All right. Well, Um, so I have somewhat not of a moderate view on this, but maybe some might consider it moderate. But I don't like to think about these types of issues along party lines because, and I understand why people would frame this as a Democrat versus Republican because it is exactly a Democrat versus a Republican problem.
Yeah.
But I don't like to place myself in those party categories all the time. Sometimes I do. Um, but I think this is one of those instances that I won't because I think that the notion that we're redrawing maps and whether it's in red states or blue states or red counties, blue counties or whatever, blue cities. I mean, honestly, I think it's reprehensible.
Yeah,
And I don't think that Texas should have done it. I
yeah.
don't think California should have done it.
Thank you.
And in the case of California, I think that it's even extra reprehensible. And the reason is because unlike Texas, we already had Californians vote on this and give the redistricting to an independent, nonpartisan commission in 2008 when they passed the Voters First Act. And and it goes through a nonpartisan process and it's voted on, and then that's what becomes the district maps. So
So,
I think it's extra egregious for California to do this because it violates the principle of what we've already voted for 18 years ago, 19 years, 18, 19 years ago. And so that's why I think it's extra egregious. And I
but
don't think it should be done by either party.
thank you, thank you. And while I agree with some of your points, if you don't mind, I would like to rebuttal this.
Yeah.
And what I want to say is this: I completely disagree on the fact that we're talking about being extra reprehensible from the California side. There is a valid, it's Proposition 50, and that's what we're going to vote right now. So even now, California is asking for the people to make their opinion if we want to go forward with this or not. The people in Texas didn't even get that right. This was a Trump push that he did on this last summer, that he wanted to encourage the Texas Republicans to just redraw their congressional maps before the 2026 mid elections, right? There was a
Hmm.
special session, and then they just made the call. And what happened was the Democratic Congress of Texas, they walked out. They said, no, 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 we're not going to be doing this redistricting right now because it's ahead of time. And what happened? If you look at the news, you're going to see that they were chasing them, almost chasing them to jail them and pressuring them into just being there. And by the way, they ended up voting. They didn't need the Democratic Congress in Texas. All they needed was for them to show up so they could push this agenda. So I can't blame California for trying to level the playing field, even when they're not forcing this on us. They're sending a vote and saying, hey guys, this is what we can do. We need to hear from you. There it
Yeah.
is. It's Proposition 50. We can say yes or no. You're making your point of view. So I encourage you, and hopefully you can make it, my friend, so you can make sure that you vote. I'm definitely going to vote yes. Hopefully, everybody puts their ear to the ground and reads into it and makes their decision based on what they think and believe, right? And um, you know, it's just our voice, and that's what I'm saying is to me is extra reprehensible from the Republican Texas side because this is so political. This is not. We're not even talking about listening to the voice of the people. We're just talking about putting more numbers of one party over the other one, and I think that is so.
Well, here's what I think about that is that first of all, when I say it was extra reprehensible for the California, I made sure not to say Democrats, even though California is mainly ran by Democrats, because I wouldn't care if it were Democrats, Independent, the Green Party, the Purple Party, whatever party it is, you
Mhm.
know, it's reprehensible is reprehensible. And in the fact is Prop 50 would take redistricting out of the hands of the independent commission that it's already in and give it back to the legislature. And the reason why, to me, that's not good is because legislators have a tendency to try to protect their own seats. And so and my thing is I'm looking at this 2, 3, 4, or 5 generations down the road. If we keep doing this, then we're going to end up having so many Congress people, maybe even thousands of Congress people. I mean, it's a possible scenario, and which you might think would be good, but it's not good when we continue to have a completely politically fractious and polarized and down to the Republican Democratic Party line. So what I do is I like to take a step back and say, forget Democrat, forget Republican, because I'm not really loyal to either party. I don't care about party politics very much. Um, What I care about is putting power in the hands of the people, which I believe, as I guess a foundationalist, you might say, is leave the power in the hands of the people, and it was already in the hands of the people with an independent commission. And if people vote no on Proposition 50, it will stay in the hands of the independent commission. Forget about Republican seats versus Democrat seats. I don't care about that.
Hmm. Okay. So, do you know that who is going to be redistricting? What we're voting on is the Proposition 50. Sorry, what we're voting on is for the redistricting to happen again. But do you know that who is going to be doing the redistricting is not going to be the current Congress? It's still going to be the same independent commission.
Well, the
So
redistricting happens every 10 years,
that's
regardless
right.
of,
That's right. So
yeah.
what I'm saying is the only thing that we're doing here, we're not replacing the independent commission. We're just replacing the fact that it's not going to be done every 10 years as it should be,
Mm-mm.
as if I was decided. It's just simply moving ahead of the 2026 in response to what Texas is doing. So they're not taking away from the fact that it's still an independent commission. The independent commission is still going to handle that. And so it's
Mm-mm.
in a sense, it's still a toss. Right? I mean,
No, I don't. I don't think that that's correct. It is they keep from what I understand. What Prop 50 does is that, and I'll put some information up here. People can make up their own mind. Um, is that under the current system that we have now, they do have the commission. Voting yes would temporarily, only temporarily, and I guess it would go back after a certain amount of time,
yes.
which, to be fair, only temporarily stops the commission from drawing, puts it back in the hands of the legislator, and then I guess gives it back to the commission. But even so, taking power away from the people temporarily as an emergency measure, as I don't like it.
Okay, I understand that. So let me ask you something. So what
Hmm.
was your take on Texas doing it? And why
Didn't like it.
what do you feel that was a correct move?
No,
And do you think the best solution is to do nothing about it?
no, I don't think that we do nothing about it. But I think the best thing to do about it is to make the case to the people that we're not going to, we could, I think Governor Newsom could, if he wanted to, come out and say, you know what, we could easily do this Prop 50, probably gain a majority. I don't think we're going to get a majority of people voting yes, but we could say, yeah, we're gonna vote Prop 50. We're gonna do 5 more seats for Democrats in Congress. But I think Gavin Newsom would be better off saying, hey, listen, we're not going to do that because we're going to be the more principled party, and that's but they're not. They got to fight tooth and nail in order to get every seat because we're so politically divided and polarized. I just don't like the whole polarized environment, and I don't want to keep moving towards polarization. I want to move away from it.
No, I understand that, but unfortunately, this is how I feel. This is where we are today because we elected the people that we have elected today. Now, with
Hmm.
that being said, I know from watching the news that the governor did made several times publicly, and uh, you can find it all over the YouTube, where he said they didn't want to do this. They're gonna do it if Texas is moving forward with this change of redistricting, and Texas did not care about that response. They basically continued pushing through. And so what we're seeing now is the result of the governor Newsom putting that in the air and say, hey, we don't want to do this. We have nothing. We don't want to be doing any of this stuff, but we may have to level the playing field. And I'm gonna try to find some resources that I can put here in the comments below for all those videos that, again, I understand. So if you are not watching those type of videos, which I totally get, and I'm pretty sure there's plenty of people on the right that never saw it, but in reality, there were plenty of times when the government said we don't want to do this, but if you're gonna do this, we're gonna have to do this. Um, And I feel like that's how we landed where we are. I wish I was in the same side you're on in terms of we need to take the heat off, but unfortunately there's gotta be a response, and that's why I was asking you. I wish we could think about another way, right? I wish Texas would have another way. I think they're filing suit, but who knows where that's going to go.
Well, we'll see what happens. I honestly don't think Prop 50 is going to pass. I just don't think that. I think a lot of people, um, I'm not saying you, just mischaracterize and they misjudge the California voter, and they think that we're ultra liberal and that no matter what the governor says, we're going to vote. But we also got to remember that this is a governor that had, I think it was 42 or 43% of people wanting to get him out of office, and that's a lot of people, and a lot of those included Democrats. And so I think that you're going to be surprised at the response. Even if it does win, it'll win by a very thin margin.
Yeah, yeah. You're probably right, and I don't know if I'm going to be surprised because I think what I see is there's a lot of misinformation about it, right? I just found an article, by the way, where I'm going to be able to share it with you. Where in Politico they were talking about when California Gavin Newsom was warning the president to not be doing this illegal redistricting, or let's call it redistricting. I'm not a lawyer, so I shouldn't be making those comments. But um, you know, there were several times that we talked about it, and it's a hyper partisan thing. I think this is a response. Again, you're entitled to your point of view, my friend. I think that I hope that it does passes. I am not excited about having the fact that it has to pass, but I think that the voice of the people needs to be heard, and just allowing other states to just make their own gerrymandering and redistricting just so they can get more of their own political party um, in the Congress, I think is reprehensible. I think is
Let me ask you
very
this.
bad.
Let's say we had a glimpse into the future in 10 years, and let's say that you knew Republicans were going to lose the House, the Senate, the presidency in the next presidential election. And let's say even in this midterms coming up next year, that they were going to lose the House and the Senate, right? And then let's say you even knew the election after that in 2032 that they would lose that election and Republican Party starts shrinking by big numbers. Let's just say that were to happen and you had a glimpse into the future and nobody else had it but you and me for the sake of this conversation. Okay, would you vote yes or would you vote no on Prop 50?
That's a really good point to make, but I'm going to tell you this. Why are you making it up to the Democrats to have to do this? This was a Republican start, right?
I'm not. I,
But
I'm. I
they,
don't. I'm not being partisan at all. I don't want either one to do it.
I know, but I'm the one that is saying this was not started by California. This was started by Texas. This was started by the Republicans, the hyper partisan Texas that they're doing it. This is not a California thing. In If I had the, however you want to call it, to see what's happening on the other side of the political spectrum in terms to elections, I would hope this wouldn't be happening to begin with.
Mhm.
And then next, I just want the party that is going to be helping the people, right? And I'm not saying the people as the general people. I'm part of that people, right? I'm just a worker like everybody else. I'm trying to get by like everybody else. I can't afford my groceries like everybody else. I can't I can't pay for some things and struggle just like everybody else. I just want our voice to be saved. I want our vote to count and matter. I want us to be able to decide. I want you to, I just wanted to clarify right now as we're talking about. You have mentioned that you don't really affiliate to political parties, and so you lean sometimes to the right, and that's okay. And that's where I wanted to clarify myself. I am not actually a partisan person myself. I'm also conservative. Um, I have to agree with some of the Democratic things, and I'm extremely disappointed with a lot of things the Democrats have made. I don't really care. This is not a football team, my friend. I don't go for Democrats just because. In fact, I wasn't going to vote for them past two times. Uh, I,
Mm-hmm.
I just wish, as you mentioned one time, you were talking about Bernie Sanders when Bernie Sanders was not the person, uh, and it seemed like he was railroaded. I was extremely disappointed with the Democrats. I did not want to vote. Um, I was not a Hillary Clinton fan, and I'm not afraid to say it. I was just not. I wanted a political change, but I want people elected to work for us, not ineptitude and owning the libs and partisan thing. This is how you start breathing corruption. At this point, it feels like we're just breathing even higher corruption just because we wanted to own the libs, and that's I don't agree with it. I don't know if I made my point to you, but I want you to know we do come to an agreement. In fact, I think that you and I come to a lot of agreement and middle ground in things that they're common sense.
Well, then vote no.
I will be voting yes, my friend. And
Well,
I
let
will
me
be
let me.
voting to vote yes. And again, it's only because as you vote, as you want to take care of it and vote no, I am gonna say,
Let me ask you this.
unfortunately, why should California or us be the only ones being the adults in the
Right.
room and letting others not do it?
Well, let me ask you this because we've had, and if anybody's been paying attention to our podcast, hopefully everybody's paying attention, but if anybody's been paying attention, we've had conversations where, we talk about this polarized society, and we talked about this, I think, in the first podcast we did, and then when it came up to Charlie Kirk, and how extreme polarization and rhetoric can lead to some pretty bad things. And I think what we agreed on is the more principled approach, right? Which is start with yourself. Like Michael Jackson, look at the man in the mirror. It's a great song, Man in the Mirror. I love that song. And and I think if each individual took that to the ballot with them instead of voting on party lines, we would be in a much better place. Now, is that reality of what's going to happen in this next election? No, of course not, because people pay attention to their echo chambers for the most part. But there are a healthy amount of people out there who do take that principled approach. And that's all I'm asking people to do is take a principled approach and don't exchange an evil for an evil. And
I
but
think that
I
I
think
think
that
that's a really good point. So I think what we need to do is with your message, and I hope I didn't cut you off.
you're fine.
I think what I would like to say is you're right. Educate yourself, my friends. Go ahead, look it up. We're gonna post some pictures over there, but we don't do the research for you. Do it. Google it. Google what is Proposition 50. Read it up. Read up what Texas did. Read up what California is doing and why we're doing it on both sides. Make yourself your decision. Does that sounds like a good statement?
That sounds like a great statement. And just as a fun fact, if you don't mind,
Of course.
um, the term I just wanted to look this up. I thought it was so cool. So the term gerrymander was coined. I'm reading right off of ChatGPT 5. Okay, but uh, the term gerrymander was coined in 1812 when Governor Elbridge Gerry of Massachusetts approved a partisan redistricting map that benefited his political allies. And one district was drawn so oddly shaped that the Boston newspaper joked that it looked like salamander. So they combined the words Jerry and salamander and came up with gerrymander. So there we go. And it's been going on ever since the founding, guys.
That is so good. Actually, I always wonder. I never really knew that history. Oh, that's good, man. That was a educational thing. That's something else for us to look up.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that for today that would be enough, and then we will be talking about the government shutdown in the next episode. Trevor, I hope you have a great evening, and thank you so much.
You too. Thank you, everybody.